Okay, so it
There
should
we
be
go.
on.
Yeah, it is now.
Oh,
Whatever you
awesome.
did, fix it. And I'll just readjust because this never works. I'm going to have to keep.
Now, I'm not sure if this is... Let's see here. Let me check something.
I am a crafty bastard.
You're a crafty bastard.
Oh, dude, I once fixed... Oh, we're live? Good. Okay. I once fixed a laptop with a piece of Scotch tape and the eraser from the end of a pencil.
Yeah.
I felt like MacGyver for a week and a half.
Well, sorry, what did you do? And you were MacGyver?
I said, I once fixed a laptop with a piece of Scotch tape and an eraser from a pencil. I felt like MacGyver for a week and a half. What happened is there's this big black gay guy, right? And he's got these big hands and he just slams on the power button. So I knew there was something wrong with the power button, and they brought me the laptop and they said, "Can you please fix it?" So I open up the thing, tear it apart, and I see what happens. There's this little plastic piece that comes down, right, and hits another plastic piece and hits a touch-sensitive pad. And I'm like, This plastic piece is so small, I'm never going to be able to glue it. Taping it's not going to work because, again, you're going to have the same pressure issue. It's not going to have the same tensile strength. And I'm like, this is never going to work. So I realize, I'm just looking at the little pad. I'm like, that's about the same circumference as the eraser from a pencil. So I just break off the pen part from the pencil and I put it on there. I'm like, Scotch tape, bam, put it all together, plug it in. I said, you want to turn it off? You unplug it. Sorry, that's what you're going to have to do.
It's good. Save yourself money from going to a shop and having them charge you $100.
Yeah, well, it was free. I didn't charge him anything. He was a friend of mine. Later became my roommate.
That was a true backstory for MacGyver. It was not he was a scientist or anything. It's just that he was really cheap. And he just got really good at fixing everything with whatever was laying around.
Well, actually, the thing about MacGyver is he said, I took physics not to do anything with it, but I took it because it was fun. That's actually his quote from the TV show.
Yeah, well, I mean, that must be fun.
For fun, man.
That must be fun to be captured by terrorists every episode and stuck in a closet.
Well, once he was stuck in a whole castle, so he's like, I got a shitload of rubber bands. I'll make a robot.
So a lot of the stuff we're talking about, like that actor was later on, he went on to the SG series, Stargate. A lot of the stuff that you discuss with television revolves back towards one of the major science fiction areas. It's, I don't know, a lot of the actors that you see in other stuff have gotten either just like an early appearance on a show, or they had a reoccurring character on a show. And yet, you know, science fiction continues to get so little respect at the awards programs. It's almost stunning.
Well, the reason for that, though, is still like, well, you've got two kind of sci-fis, right? You've got the sci-fi horror action films, right, where there's zombies in space and everybody's dying and being ripped apart in the spaceship out in fucking bumfuck nowhere galaxy, right? And those always bore the fuck out of me. I'm like, zombies in space, really? You know, of course, until Firefly came along, and I was like, oh, this shit's cool.
Yeah. Wow, someone's doing it really well for a change.
Yeah. But it's not all about the fucking zombies. The zombies are just like they're every other episode. You know they're lurking out there somewhere. And they might be part of the episode. You don't know, but our ship's over here. We've got these bad guys we got to stay away from. We've got these guys we've got to shoot up and steal their shit. And, you know, all these things, you know, some things like the worst case scenario, and then you've got like the ultra luck case scenario, and you got Mal just fucking winging it half the time. Like, he pulls a grenade and he throws it at him, but it was a dud. So they just stuck, and I gave him enough time to get through the door. That was episode.
The only episode name I remember off the top of my head, though, with that show, for the actual show titles, was the episode called A Man Named Jane.
Yeah.
That is an episode title, right? Because it sounds very familiar to me. And
well,
an
hold
actor.
on. I think that's not quite right. Hold on. Go ahead and keep talking. I'll look it up as I can do both.
Yeah, it was played by Adam Baldwin. On the latest episode of Castle, which is a much sillier show. He's on there as a guest star, so the two are chumming around again. That's kind of funny. They have sort of the same relationship on both shows.
Although I did not realize it. I did not realize it at first. We talked about people earlier that are in one show and we don't realize that they're in another one. I did not realize that Wash was pirate.
Sorry, that he was who?
He was Steve the Pirate from Dodgeball.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, tell me you've watched Tucker and
the
Dale.
episode is called Janestown. The episode is called Janestown.
Oh, okay.
But there's a song about a man named Jane in that episode where he's a hero, and everyone's like, wait, he's the hero in this story? They see a big statue of him, and it's like, it's kind of weird. The eyes kind of follow you.
I haven't watched that show in a few years. I like having a few years between so that you kind of forget some of the details and it all comes back to you while you're watching through it.
Yeah.
It is just a total shame that they canceled that here early. It's unbelievable to me. But again, casting in that show was really well done. You know, even though I might not have particularly liked all of the actors themselves, as a cast, they worked really well for the feeling of the show. But we were talking about Star Trek before. Next Generation, they got rid of what's her name? The girl that played Tasha Yar. Denise Crosby.
Yep, there you go.
She was a terrible actor. Just horrible to watch.
I thought she was good in Star Trek.
Okay, so go back again and watch. In particular, there's a scene when Q has
the penalty box. I remember that quite clearly.
Yes. Now you watch.
Throwing a load in the penalty box.
Yeah, right. So she's trying to act and show emotion, which she fails miserably to do. And I should say, years later, I've watched her do other stuff. She grew as an actor later on, but at the time, she was really, really bad. And that's got to be such a shitty situation. She's next to Patrick Stewart, failing like over and over again, take after take, no doubt.
It's
got to be the worst place.
I have to stop you there. I don't think her acting was bad. I don't. I think what was bad was the fucking dialogue she had to work with. She's like, I'm crying because I got sent to the ship and I might die. I'm on a fucking starship. I might die anytime. I'm wearing a yellow shirt.
I'm going to disagree with you, man. I studied acting for years. I've seen a lot of different types of people try to do many different situations and lines. It was a case where she clearly didn't have the skills necessary. Like, she didn't know what she was doing. It's not that she, like I say, years later, well,
hold on. Let's go back earlier in that episode, in that season, though. Earlier in that season, like one of the first episodes, right? Actually, I think it was the first episode where she meets Counselor Troy, right? And she goes up and is like, "Look, I don't want you reading my mind. I find this a violation of my rights, and I don't like this." And she goes, I'm an empath. I'm not a telepath. And then, Denise comes back. Like, she played the pissed off little, but
it's,
the pissed off Mighty Mouse, right? Because she's small, but she's strong. She's got like this rock hard personality. And I think in that scene, she played that role just solid.
But that's not really acting. All she's doing is she's got one thing she can do easily, and she's hiding behind it. What really counts is when you have to show diversity. That
so you're saying she's Julia Roberts.
Yes. That is what I'm saying.
I still think Denise Crosby is a hell of a lot better actor than Julia Roberts.
Let me put it this way: if I really loved. We were just talking about like Star Trek was my show too. Next Generation in particular. If they hadn't gotten rid of her, I probably wouldn't have continued to watch the show. That's how bad she was. She's just awful. She just continually just took me out of the scene.
I thought she did pretty well as a Romulan, though. I thought she did well as that.
But see, that was a couple years later. She had time to improve, and that's what counts. Like, I'm not trying to condemn her. She was a young actress at the time. When she came back as the Romulan, she had markedly improved what she was capable of doing. And I watched her in a couple other shows where, what was that one about the meteors coming? And not Armageddon, the other one that was boring. What was
Deep Impact?
Yes. The boring one. She plays the mother in that of one of the characters. And
I did not realize that. I did not know that. Wow. Okay.
And she turns on the waterworks at one point, and it's really believable. And it's far more emotional than the scene we were just talking about. So I'm not trying to condemn her. I'm just saying at the time she was a really shitty actress.
Well, you got to realize
Will Wheaton, of course, was around for much longer. We had to contend with him.
I still don't find him to be a good actor. He's still crap. I hated him on Eureka. I hated him on like everything else I've seen him be on, right? And it's like, dude, just get off TV. I cannot stand you. Like, oh my God. Although he was good. He was good in Stand By Me. I love Stand By Me. Yeah. It's a solid fucking movie.
Okay, so I have an expression. When you buy your own hype, that's when the trouble begins. And in his case, you see his earlier work, he was not a huge star. By the time Star Trek rolled around, I think he felt like he was he felt he was bigger or more important than he was. I get the strong, they don't really talk about this type of stuff with each other very often, like bad blood and whatever. But I get the strong sense he had a real chip on his shoulder, particularly by the time they got rid of him. Like, this isn't challenging me. Why am I even here? This type of self-importance. And an attitude problem, if I'm correct, that would explain why his performance and his character were so shitty. There were times I didn't mind the character. I thought he was fine. Like when he builds those little machines that take over the ship.
And he's like, oh shit, I fucked up. Yeah. When I was a kid and I was watching Star Trek, I loved his character. I didn't mind the acting. And if you look at the storyline, if you read like some of the books, which I started to do, you find out that the reason he was getting like that was because he was disillusioned with Starfleet. He built his whole life up, like up to the first season. He built his whole life up studying everything about Starfleet, the Enterprise, everything. He memorized all that stuff, and to the point where it became automatic when he accidentally turned on the comm, and he was actually acting like the captain. And that's when Picard's like, "All right, out of the fucking chair, get off the goddamn bridge." And he's like, "Sorry, that was just instinct." Because he bought into his father's hype, right? Because his father was Starfleet and his mother's Starfleet. Right. So, but then he got disillusioned because he didn't like. They threw out his friend, right? They threw out his friend out of Starfleet because he was different from everybody else. He wasn't commander like material, and they said, we're not a refiner, or they go like, we don't produce commanders, we refine commanders. If you're not a commander, you're out. And he didn't like that. He didn't like a lot of things, and he was like, this is all bullshit. And so by the fourth season, he's just fighting with everybody because he doesn't know where he's supposed to be anymore, because he knows it's not Starfleet, but he's got no other route.
With his character, as you said, he became disillusioned. I think that this was a reaction to writing for where he was going. They were trying to do something that would be believable on the show and interesting on the show. My favorite part with his character, though, in the end, because he had some good stuff, but in the end, when they wrote him off as going away with the Traveler, as in never to come back, I was so fucking relieved. I was just like, good. No, we don't have to deal with this shit anymore.
Well, we only had like 10 more episodes before he was gone, and the series ended.
Well, yeah, but did you notice in the last Star Trek Next Generation movie that they made, Nemesis, was it Star Trek Nemesis?
That was the very last one. Yeah.
It was just, I don't know if you like that movie. I was just so disappointed with it. I wouldn't say I hate it. It makes me sad. But if you'll notice in the beginning, the wedding scene, he's just sitting there. Well, I guess he's back from traveling the universe in other dimensions. Everyone's just like, hey, how's it going? Mister, I've been traveling to other dimensions. Hey, pull up a seat. Well, Data's going to sing a song. Have some cake.
Yeah, I didn't notice him in the movie, I guess, because it's been a long time since I've watched that, and I thought the whole clone idea was stupid. They rewrote that movie so many times though, and I think the ending was phenomenal. Like, that was the killer fucking episode of Star Trek. Like, we're done with all of these things now. Star Trek: The Next Generation is officially completely over.
I'm not so much upset that they decided to stop making movies. I mean, I would have liked them to keep doing it, but I was not pleased that the movie just seemed lackluster. And I can believe they kept rewriting it. The director, as soon as I watched the movie, I didn't know anything about anyone that worked on it behind the scenes. First thing I said to a friend of mine when we walked out was, I feel like whoever made this movie had no idea what Star Trek was. Like, no fucking clue. First thing I heard the director say in an interview, I've never watched an episode or anything to do with Star Trek before I started this production.
Yeah, I think I remember that. And he goes, I had a lot of people helping me with the concepts and the characters and all that other stuff.
Yeah, so brilliant casting or brilliant hiring a director who didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Well,
look at the latest episode movies of Star Trek. They totally suck. I know a lot of people are like, wow, this is cool. Now the Star Trek's awesome. Like, dude, what made Star Trek awesome was exploring the human experience. Gene Roddenberry, he took real social problems, right? And he put them in a different framework so that when you're watching, like, he dealt with racism. Like, in the first series, he's side they're black, on this side they're green. He goes, what, are you blind? He's green on the right side and not the left side. And their people are slaves. They're inferior to us. And it's like, dude, it's a slightly different color. All it is switched. How is that any different? Like, really? Because in your mind, you're like, this is the stupidest fucking argument ever. He's a slave just because he's on the wrong fucking side. And you realize, black and white. I can see this now.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
That's stupid. They're just different people from a slightly different culture, from a different class. And it's like, you can't hate them. And they did. I don't know if it was transsexuals or if they were attacking the whole anti-gay thing with Riker falling in love in the Next Generation.
Wasn't it the Doctor falls in love with a Trill? Was that the episode you're thinking of?
No, I'm talking Riker falls in love with this. Okay, there's this group of people.
But be more specific, because he falls in love over and over again in the show.
Well, I have to explain, because I can't say this woman and I can't say this man. It's an asexual being, right, who identifies as female. Okay?
Okay.
They don't populate sexually. They populate via cloning or something like that. It's similar, right? So if you're male or female, then that means you have a psychological problem, and it's socially it's
yes.
What's the word I'm looking for? It's not socially acceptable. It's a more there's a stronger word for it. I can't think of it at the moment.
Taboo. It's a taboo. It's a
it's more than a taboo though, and I can't think of that word. Someone in the comments section whoever may see this, maybe can tell me down below. But she identifies as female, and she goes, there was a boy when I was really small who came out as male, right? And then when he came back after their programming, right, to make him better, he wasn't the same person anymore. He was a completely different person. Who he was completely gone. And Riker had come up with a scheme to be able to liberate her from the society, right? To give her
asylum.
Asylum is a place you go to.
No, political asylum it's called. That's the one you're protected.
Maybe it is, and maybe the word is just doing something fuzzy in my head right now. But yeah, so Picard's like, no, we've got to go now. We can't interfere in their society. And Riker's like, he beams down against orders, and he's like, Captain, I'm here, and she's ready to go. And he's like, fine, fucking beam him up. But the people catch just in time, and they brainwash her. And I don't know if that was dealing with gays, because they couldn't do it in the first series. They were going to, and then when Kirk kissed Uhura, like the shit fucking hit the fan. He goes, if they're going to do this just because he kissed a black woman, a white guy kissed a black woman, they will never accept homosexuality.
They had to go back they had to go back and re-record the shot with it so that you couldn't see their lips touching. It was behind, like her head was in the way, and some stations still blocked out the episode, the whole thing.
It's so sad.
Yeah, but that was a turning point. You know, I think what happened was, he was he and the people that circulated around him, Roddenberry, they're human. They had their flaws. They had their limitations of their own time and whatnot. Well, I think one of the misconceptions is that he was really adopted by what now today we call the progressives, right? The progressivism or whatever it is. Whereas he was actually a philosopher and a humanist. So when you watch shows like that, he is taking the alternative position. He is flipping it on his head. You're right. Well, I'm not sure if how much he had to do with any particular episode, but the environment he created, that's what the writers were doing. They took, like you're saying, somebody who's trans in our world, flipped it around so that would be the opposite norm on this other world. So you can analyze the situation. What I don't think, and it's very clear, like if you look at, for instance, Drumhead, everyone knows this episode hopefully by now, where they have the witch hunt basically on the ship, and he has to lay this out for Worf. Like, I'm going to take a stand because this is wrong. You can't just go around accusing people of things and thinking they're guilty without proving they're guilty. And Worf has got this really low standard of evidence that he's accepted from this lady, and he's like, that's not good enough.
Well, hold on. It wasn't that it was a low standard of evidence with Worf. With Worf, it was about loyalty and duty and honor.
Well, you're right.
Nothing to hide. You'll put up this, and if we have this in this episode evidence, and they filled him with all of this sense of duty and honor bullshit. And it was bullshit because it was beyond honor and duty. This was actually dishonorable. And Worf, he said something. He goes, well, this isn't really right. The rules say this. And he goes, well, sometimes you can bend the rules because it's better for the whole, it's the ends to the means kind of thing. And then he's like, okay, I'll follow in line. And then there's a point in that episode where he's like, no, Captain's right. This shit is fucking wrong. And fuck you. And that's when Worf really came out on his own.
And the thing I love about this is it focuses on your principles rather than your end conclusions, right? So what Worf was concerned about, explosion. Worf was so concerned about prioritizing one set of principles, which is loyalty, that he was willing to sacrifice others in order to get the conclusions he felt were needed. And these are the best types of episodes on any show, where you look at this and you go, okay, but another principle here is about justice, and that includes due process. And we've had years to understand how this goes wrong. He was willing to get rid of that until he saw it happen to the captain, and then he tried to speak up for the captain, right? And then he started seeing it.
Because once he spoke up with the captain, they started turning on him, and he's like, I know I'm not guilty, so if I know I'm not guilty, and the captain knows he's not guilty, maybe these other people aren't guilty either, and they're using the same tactic.
Exactly. And so today we've got all these insane social justice warriors, progressives, whatever you want to call them. They're well, I don't know, you heard about this recently. At one of these universities, I don't know if it was Missouri, if it was Yale, I think it was Missouri. They had a group of, and I can't make this up, they had a group of black protesters protesting against a group of white protesters who were protesting for blacks.
Hashtag not your shield.
Oh yes, but they all wanted the same end goal apparently. Like it's totally insane. except that everyone was being now judged based on race, and all other principles have been thrown out the window. Well, this is why you don't do that. I mean, this is becoming chaos. The idea is, let's discuss the issues. The reason black people matter is because they're people. You know, it's not because black is more or less valuable. It's because they're people. So we don't judge people by their skin. And this is lost. It's completely lost on these guys.
Well, I remember there was this protest a little while ago, and they were like protesting pretty hard. They wouldn't let anyone get into class, and this black student, he's like, man, I need to get to class. I need to you can do your protest thing. That's great, but I have to get to class. This is important.
Yeah.
My degree is riding on this. I have to pass this test. And they're like, no, man, we're protesting for you, man. You gotta, like, you guys with it. And they were fighting with him. He's like, dude, I need to get. Why are you stopping me from getting to class? Like, if you're protesting for me, why would you block me from getting a college education?
Yeah. And it's the ends justify the means, right? That's why you probably saw that a couple of reporters were being pushed around. People were being denied access to public area to see what was going on. It was public space.
You're talking about like the last day or two?
Yeah, Missouri. And then people screaming at the faculty leaders at Ivy. These are Ivy universities.
Yeah. But the funny thing about that, and I don't know if you caught this or not, they were complaining about media coverage. They blocked this guy from filming their protest, right? He's like, the first amendment that allows you to protest allows me to film. I have a constitutional right to film this. And they're like, they stopped him from filming. Then the next day or two, they bitched because no media would cover it. Well, no shit, man. You blocked the fucking media. You block the media. How are they going to fucking cover you when you stop them from covering you?
It's madness. It's what it is. It's a type of madness where people get all worked up and they don't take time to stop, cool down, and think about this. Really challenge their own perspective and their allies. Is this really the world we want to live in, where we assign everyone a value based on their skin color, their sex, their gender identity, where they were born, how much money their parents have? They give you a value number, and then that is your caste in life. It's a caste system. It's totally mad. It goes against everything the civil rights has been fighting for. And the only reason they can't see it is because they're so convinced they're right from the get-go, and they're so emotionally invested in it. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I just turned off the camera for a second. Yeah, it's people get high-headed over the stupidest things, and they have to be right because their ego says, "No, I'm right about this. I can't think logically. I have to be right about this, so I have to get even more mad." It's like, dude, just calm down. Think about the argument for a second.
Yeah, get a squishy ball.
Yeah.
Do you remember the episode Angel 1 from Next Generation?
That sounds so familiar. You're going to have to give me some of the details of it. I'm bad with names.
It's the porno episode where Data takes it in the butt. No, it's not really. It's okay. So it's a great episode, and this is what I mean by principles. Now, watch how this works. So you watch this show. It's a planet where women rule everything. It's a matriarchy rather than a patriarchy.
Right.
And some of their people get lost on the planet. So there's this confusion going on. They have to go down there. Riker's got to dress a certain way to be like sexy or whatever and talk to this lady. And they eventually, I think, managed to convince them not to kill these people or something. I'm not really sure. But the interesting thing about this is you take this episode, many feminists will take this episode and go, look, see how strange it would be if the patriarchy was reversed. We had a matriarchy, right? They'd easily be able to do that. And I think probably that was the original inspiration of the show. However, I took the same episode and I put it at the beginning of one of our podcast episodes or somewhere in our podcast episode just to demonstrate how idiotic feminists, these crazy feminists have become.
Yep.
The very principles that used to be their cause are now the antithesis of the current feminists and their cause. You're not supposed to have the goal of one sex being above the other. And you don't do that by sidelining people. You do it through inclusion.
Right.
Right. And so, there's a scene I include where he comes up and he goes, is there any way that I can get you not to do an execution? It seems so barbaric. She goes, you wouldn't understand. He goes, why? Because I'm a man? It's like, that's brilliant. It's exactly the way it's normally cast the opposite way. Those scenes are everywhere, but this is the only time I've seen a scene where it's this way. Why? Because I'm a man. I can't think that well.
There is a comment. What it was? Damn, I got to look through all my YouTube comments now, because there was this this woman. She had put it perfectly. She had put it so perfectly. She said, and I'm going to try and do this from memory, which isn't going to do it any kind of justice. And I responded with, "You just broke the internet." This was the most accurate portrayal of feminism I've ever seen. She goes, "Okay, if you're fat, you can't fat shame if I'm fat. If I'm skinny, you can't skinny shame, because that's oppression. If I'm, it's unfair." Basically, she went throughout every single issue the feminists had and said, it's only bad unless I'm that thing.
Yeah.
So, like genital mutilation is bad if you're a woman. It's not bad because I'm not a woman, or for males. It's like,
yeah,
damn. Yeah. She just, the way she put it was absolutely perfect. And I'm going to have to find that. And
I forget who. I first heard this from Michael Shermer, one of his programs. I forget who said this, who he's quoting, but somebody has a model that they came up with about how to make a better society, the best society you can consider. The theory goes like this. The only way that you can properly, as someone trying to compose or create this theory of a better society, is if you don't know which part of the society you will play, which part you'll play. So in other words, let's say there's, the strata of different roles that people are going to play. Right. The only way you can honestly create that society in an honest effort to make it better for everyone is if you don't know who you're going to be. And this is the thing that you can see the real axe grinding, the real bent of these ideologues is that they know exactly where they're going to be. They're going to be where the men are that they envy and that they say are so evil, but they envy these guys as they perceive them. Really powerful, self-interest, abusing power. This is exactly what they want, but they just want it for themselves. If they thought they were going to be in the position of the lowly man who can't go to college, can't hold down a job, has his wife telling him what to do all the time, goes to jail if he can't pay like an obscene amount of money for child support, they probably wouldn't propose the society if they thought that might be who they are in the future. That's my theory on it anyway.
Interesting.
Are you looking for something?
No, I just thought it was interesting because it was kind of like one of the episodes of Star Trek where everybody's memories erased and they're like, who's who? Like,
yes.
Am I the captain? Or I must be because I'm wearing this. I must be this type of person. And the guy's like, I'm sorry if I took command when it wasn't my place. And he's like, no, man, we know none of us knew. You did the best you could with what you thought you knew, and you went with it. And I thought that was fine.
There's always little nitpick things. Like the main theme of that one was really cool. The thing that didn't make any sense is why would a civilization that the Federation knew about that had such low technology be able to do that? So obviously that part made no sense, but you needed something to make it happen.
Not necessarily. I mean, they also had the episode Booby Trap where this really ancient thing, they're like, we're more sophisticated now than this war that happened hundreds of years ago. And they're laws of physics are laws of physics, man. You hide a really good booby trap somewhere and you're going to trip it. It's like people stepping on a landmine hundreds of years after it's been buried. It may be really old technology, but the shit still works.
But this one was the one you're talking about was a live there's a war going on between two minor civilizations,
Right.
and the civilization or Federation was in contact with both of them. They knew them both. That was the part that was a little ridiculous. Was that the Federation would realize, oh, by the way, they have the capability of making people forget everything.
They knew about them. They did not necessarily know their technology. They may have had an idea of a general technological level, right? But they didn't know all their technology. These are just people that they've come across a couple of times, and then they couldn't interfere with because of the Prime Directive, right? So they could have had this. They could have had this mind wipe thing because biology is being similar in the function of the way your eyes pick up information stored in the brain, right? So they could have had that, and they said it was only a temporary effect anyway.
It would have been more believable if they had gotten it onto the ship, but again, it doesn't really matter to me because it's not really the main focus of the show. That's why I call it nitpicking.
Well, I think it's interesting. Like, it's good you picked that up because one of the fails that they did have on Star Trek, and that I will completely admit to, is Geordi is talking about, oh, we've got civilizations on the moon. I mean, the moon doesn't look like it does now, man. We've got cities all over, and and we got this and this, and you can see the lights from in this city light up, and then they're like at the end of the movie, they're flying the Enterprise past the moon in the current century, right?
Yeah.
In the future, and there's nothing on the fucking moon.
Yeah. That's because Geordi, the little known fact, Geordi is a habitual liar.
Well, even in Deep Space Nine, Cisco's kid, he goes, he's talking to this girl who's in Red Squad, and he goes, oh, so you're a lunar schooner. She's like, I haven't been called that in a long time, and the day is this long on the moon and all this other stuff. So, again, they mentioned that there's colonies on the moon.
Yeah.
Several times throughout the series. I don't know if they ever did that in the Next Generation or the original series. I mean, but
I'm gonna run something past you. I get these theories, so I'm gonna run past it. You tell me what you think. Now, let me set up with this. Before Deep Space Nine came out, I ran a small little like self-made D&D game with just my brother and a few friends, and the enemy in this one, the setting for it was that within nebulas, an enemy civilization was setting up. They could use shields and sensors and everything, and this was their base of operations for getting into enemy territory and then launching invasions. Deep Space Nine came out, and then the Dominion was able to use shields and shit inside, right? So, and then I had an idea. I was telling my friends about it, and I was thinking about running a game on it before Voyager came out, where an ambassador-style ship it was capable of combat, but it was an ambassador ship bringing diplomats from all over the Federation. We're going to go to Romulus. And then the Romulans decided to make it look like they were destroyed to capture them and get like all kinds of information out of them. But they escape the attack, but they're trapped behind Romulan lines and no one knows they're alive. And that would be the series. And then Voyager came out, which I thought was an inferior version of my idea.
Dude, Voyager was an inferior version of everything Star Trek, okay? Like, God, I hated Jane. She's such a crappy captain. She sucks. And the acting was crap, too, but I don't know if that was her acting or the dialogue. I've seen her act in other stuff.
Would you agree that it was a great move to bring Seven on there, that she was a delight?
No, I didn't. I didn't like Seven. I didn't like Seven at all. I'm like, okay, they're bringing sex appeal. So now they're desperate to get in these horny little boys who are going to stare at her.
That I agree with. That I agree with.
And it was like, no, this is a shit character. Get her the fuck out.
Right. But that I agree with. I do agree with you. And also, I don't know if you know that she passed out 3 times from the tight outfits they put on her on set.
See, that I have a problem with.
Yeah. And that's not what Star Trek was supposed to be about.
Yeah.
No. But setting that aside, I think the reason I liked her was just because I really didn't like the rest of the show. I was hoping Neelix would die every episode that I saw of that show.
I love Neelix.
I want him to die.
I loved him. Die. He was great. I loved him.
Okay, so
awesome. And I thought he was a great parental figure, man. And he was always like, I've got to stay on the ship somehow. I've got to stay on the ship somehow.
He was just so irritating, man.
I'll be the ambassador. Yeah, but he doesn't. He doesn't.
He was like my half Muppet character. Hey,
man, he is dedicated to that role. That actor has my utmost respect. Especially that thing they did in the fucking heat in the desert, that for the charity that Star Trek did. That. So he's in this 100-and-something degree weather with all this stuff on, and one of the actors goes, "Oh man, it's so hot." He's like, "Shut up, shut up! I'm sitting in this costume. It's 100-something. None of you are nearly as hot as I am with all this fur glued to your face." And I'm like, "Oh man, that has to be the worst ever." Forget
his case.
Sitting in that chair for hours, like in that heat for hours, scene after scene after scene. Wow.
I don't think it was that I thought he was a bad actor. It's not personal against him. I just hated the damn character, and you know what, the character maybe wouldn't have bothered me in a different setting, but Voyager was definitely not my show.
Well, you have to realize
Chakotay could have been so cool, man. He could have been so fucking cool. And yet, for some reason, he was so not. He was just so not cool.
I thought he did all right. I thought he did.
Yeah, but he could have done way better than that. I mean, it's not the actor. Again, it's not the actor I'm talking about. It's the way the character was used on the show.
I know. I know what you mean. I thought he did fairly well, but his character played way too second chair. He should have taken first chair more often than he did. Right? He should have taken command.
Should have stabbed the captain. It probably would have been to your pleasure if he'd stabbed the captain and taken over.
Yeah, he'd have been a much better captain than Janeway, that's for sure. But but he the one where the ship's mission, right? Like to boldly go and everything. When the episode where that cracked, right? Like that's when I thought he was Bamf, man. He was like, "No, Captain, this shit's wrong. I know you want us to get home. I know you're on the moral high ground here, but you're too on the moral high ground that you're just as bad as they are. You're becoming the fucking enemy, and I'm not going to stand by and let you do this." And she's like arguing with them back, and then it's like you saw it split because they really split the moral value on here. Where is the line that you cross, and where is the line that you don't cross? At what point are you so high on your horse that you actually become the enemy that you despised in the first place?
Yeah. Well, but getting back to what I was setting up when we got into talking about this unfortunate series. Okay, so Enterprise. Surely a happy topic for all Star Trek fans. Okay, so now a number of things struck me about the show when it first started. First of all, it sounded like Michael Bolton was singing the theme song. I was pretty sure. I still don't know who it was, but that's who it sounded like to me. Instead of having a classical instrumental like everything else, it was like some kind of weird half love pop song. That I did not like right away. They cast the guy off of Quantum Leap. Did not like that right away. And then they created a new Enterprise, which was clearly not part of canon. And this, I think, more than anything, pissed off fans right away.
Yeah.
So they started off on such a wrong footing.
No. That wasn't even the worst of it, man. That wasn't the worst of it. The worst of it was they started off on time travel. The whole series is time travel, which means that when they put everything back together, everything they did was completely meaningless.
Right. Okay, but this is my thought on this. Okay. So I'm going to quickly give you my overview of my theory because my brother is not sure whether I'm right or wrong, but he thinks it's interesting, so I'll run past you as a Star Trek fan. I think this is what happened with the show. I think that Rick Berman and whoever else schemed the show together had a 7-year run in place in their head, and they had a beginning and end to the series that they didn't talk about. But I think what they were planning on doing with the temporal Cold War was that the people they were talking to in the future were the Romulans, because you see, their star exploded and destroyed their civilization. Does that sound familiar? This is my theory on where they were going with this. So the Romulans, being the Romulans before they were pussified, they're supposed to be badass, scary dudes. They decided to change history to make sure their empire not only survived but became dominant, so that this wouldn't happen. And this, I think, was the background concept for everything going on in the background with the temporal stuff in the series. And I think at the very end, the crew would have sacrificed themselves to stop it, and would have been wiped out of existence, resetting canon to the way it was supposed to be, and only the viewers would have known about it. This is my theory, and
That's
I think JJ.
I like that. That would answer a lot of the problems.
Yes,
but then like they had the scorched earth. I think they added in that whole time flux thing where only some metal doesn't get bent for some unknown random reason. There's so many problems with that series, man.
You can't explain all the stupid people. I'm only explaining the overarching.
Right. I got you. But there was one episode like that I thought was phenomenal because Dr. Phlox was definitely the best character on the series.
He wasn't he a believable doctor? Like I believed his manners of like this could be a doctor.
Yeah, and he was like not only was he a competent doctor, but he's like he knew so many species, right? And he's got all these animals. He goes, okay, this does this. This creature will heal that wound. And he's sitting there with the patient there, and he goes, well, it would heal a lot faster if you'd let me use those things. And he goes, I don't want that. I love technology, but I want it on the outside of my body. That one I can actually relate to. And he goes, this amount of pain cannot be ethical. He goes, I can do all the pain I want. I can do no harm. And I thought that was, I'm botching that a little bit, but he put that perfectly. Like he knows his role as a fucking doctor, and you can't argue against him because that line solidified. He knows his profession. That's the line of like a true. He's like as little distinction as that. Distinction between pain and harm, thin line, but he knows where they are. And I was like, damn.
Even in the shows that I don't like, there are scenes that have their moments. With what was the one I was just thinking about with Phlox? He has a couple of great scenes in that series. Wow. Not so much funny. He has the one where he goes up against the captain because they have no prime directive about the captain wants to end the slavery on this planet where there's two species that both evolved there together. Yeah. One's the master species, one's the slave.
Well, they weren't slaves; they were servants. They weren't forced to.
Right.
They did it because they wanted to. So I just
let's
be clear on that.
The captain perceived it as a slave caste, and he wanted to put a stop to it. And there was no prime directive, but Phlox is the one who said to him, "Look, this is not your world. Like you don't understand how rare is it that two species, both sentient, would even grow up on the same planet without annihilating one the other? Who gives you the right to interfere?" So the show had its moments that I think most people could respect, and they certainly touched up the high def and stuff like that compared to the old shows.
I didn't like they introduced the beaming technology.
They did it a little soon, but I think they felt they had to because their ratings were so sloppy. Same with the phase cannons and stuff like that, and phase pistols and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Mirror episodes? The last two, the third.
I've watched every episode from the Next Generation on. I have not seen every episode of the original series.
Oh, that's another great scene. The Doctor on Voyager, when they first turn him on, and they're like talking about Paris. Can you wake him up? He's like, I don't see why not. He leans over in his ear. Wake up, Mr. Paris! He screams in his ear. Getting the half near gives him a heart attack.
Actually, I like the episode with on Voyager. I did like the episode with the Doctor and Andy Dick.
Oh yeah, what did he do again? Andy Dick was on there.
Yeah, Prometheus. He was the new Doctor.
The new model.
Yeah,
that's right.
And he's like, the guy's trying to get in. He goes, one usually goes through a hole head first. He goes, right. And he turns around.
So yeah, what was I going to say now about the one last thought on J.J. Abrams. I know a lot of people just love this guy. Anything he makes, they go out and watch it with a big smile on their face. I find him to be a lowbrow. He's he's a good producer, and he, some of the stuff he makes is good. But I think that mostly what he does is he takes at least two other ideas that have already been successful and he mashes them together. He goes, look, I made something new. No, not really. With Star Trek, he didn't even come up with anything new. He just completely was ripping off other people's ideas they'd already done, giving it new special effects.
That's not. He did mix two things together here. He took the 200th episode of Stargate SG-1, one little scene from it, and he mashed it with Star Trek.
Oh, what were they destroying planets in that?
No. They're all sitting around, right? And he goes, great. Now that the one actor asked for more money, the other actors are wanting all more money from the wormhole extreme, right? And he goes, because they're making it a movie, and they go, didn't that fail? Didn't that fail after the first season? He goes, yeah, but it did really well on DVD, which was a reference to Firefly. And they made reference. They decided that instead of coming up with a huge advanced mission for their 200th episode, that they were just going to make fun of themselves, make fun of the movie industry, make fun of TV industry, make fun of all of it. Like one of the lines is, he goes, "Aren't you the director?" "Yeah, the real one."
What show is this we're talking about now?
This is Stargate SG-1.
Okay, that's why I'm not getting the references. I haven't watched through it.
Yeah, so it's funny. So anyway, he goes, great. So how are we going to make this movie now without the original actors? He goes, why don't we make a younger, edgier version? And then you have this teeny bopper, like ultra drama crap between the characters. He goes, I don't really think such and such likes me. Like that's ever been an actual issue, like on a real TV show, right? There's always the teeny boppers that are worried about whether somebody likes them or not, or if they're cool with them and whatever, right? And they got to do this bullshit posturing, young, like chest out kind of thing. And everything has to be about sex, right? He was like, dude, that was clearly a rape. Yeah, but I could have boned her first. So he's like the younger, edgier version. That's basically what he did, and he took that idea and he meshed it with Star Trek, and that's why I fucking hate it. Because Kirk's not Kirk, Spock's not Spock, Uhura's not Uhura, right? They were middle-aged. The reason you're middle-aged on a fucking starship is because you have to go through 4 years at the academy, and then in order to be an officer, you have to do 4 more years. So you got 8 years on top of your high school, like your elementary and high school education, and to get into the academy is really fucking hard. So you have to study your ass off. So you have to have a certain level of maturity. You have to have a certain level of professionalism, and that's not what we saw in the new Star Trek films, right? We saw what's the first thing you see? You see Kirk as a little kid driving his stepfather's car off a fucking cliff and leaping from it just in time. Like, no, this was not Kirk's character. Kirk didn't risk his life unless it was actually necessary.
Well, not only that, any of the risk is completely meaningless because it took years for us to give a shit about these characters. Right? There was investment that we built into the characters and their relationships. And in the movie, we're supposed to have like an hour and a half, and we give a shit. Why? I don't know these people. They have names I recognize, but they're not the people. Anyways, the thing I was going to say about J.J. Abrams is because I think the first thing that he did when he sat down with the execs to talk about possibly lending his name to the project and directing it was he went, well, what's the last thing that Star Trek was working on? And I think that Enterprise was the last thing they had been working on.
Yep.
They found out, oh, well, this was the storyline that we were planning on going with, but the ratings went down, so we ended it early and we changed the end of the story. And then once he heard this idea, he turned it into his background story for the movie.
Yeah. I think you're right about that.
Because it removes all agency or all responsibility from his agency. He's allowed to do whatever he wants with the characters, and then if at the end of the day people don't like it, he could have gone, oh, there's another universe, there's another reality. So
reboot.
Uh-oh.
And There's all these red shirts from the original series hanging around a door, and they're just standing there waiting, right? They're just, like looking at their watches kind of thing. And the caption underneath is Game of Thrones Auditions, Stardate 254973-055, blah, blah, blah. I thought that was hilarious.
I had a couple. It was within a week after DeForest Kelley died. He was. I didn't realize it, but after he died, I realized he was my favorite actor on the original series. I had a dream about him. I forget what it was. Like just talking to him back in his like weird '70s clothes that he was wearing on the Star Trek: The Motion Picture movie. And when I go back now, I realize that the characters of Spock and Captain Kirk, they're a little interesting on their own, but they're the most interesting when he gets to be the third wheel. When he gets involved, they are far more interesting because it's you've got the emotional Kirk, impulsive Kirk. You've got Spock as the one who's like Mr. Robot, but once you have the third guy in there, then it's not always just it's not so polarized. And then you have three different. He's on
Kirk's side, and sometimes he's on Spock's side, and sometimes he bashes both their heads in.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes the Doctor's the emotional one. Sometimes Kirk's the emotional one. Sometimes the Doctor takes the logical argument and sides with Spock and pisses off Kirk.
Well, actually, a lot of it, and one scene, he takes the logical side because of his emotional experience, like with his father. Do you know what happened? Do you remember what happened with his father?
Are you talking about when he had to pull the plug, and then he found out that there's a cure a
little
while later?
And then a day later, the next fucking day after he pulls the plug, he finds out that they just discovered a cure that would have saved his wife. Potentially. Yeah. But still, he would never know because he pulled it too damn soon. He's like, worst mistake of his life. It traumatized him.
But you just didn't, again, and another character, but this actor is a little different. DeForest Kelley, you never really got to see him fly high on social media. People didn't really talk about him as much. But at least George Takei, at least he has had a resurgence and a whole new kind of career. But he's got some great scenes too that only came in the movies because he really didn't get much of a chance. There is a scene my brother and I will quote sometimes in front of each other. No one else really knows what we're doing. When something really dramatic's going on, suddenly one of us will go, "Then fly it apart!" That's an awesome scene. Did you ever watch Star Trek 6 when it was in the theater? I'm not sure what your age is.
Not in the theater, but I did see it on the VHS.
When that movie came out, Sulu had interesting parts, but he had always been a background character, and they suddenly made him a captain. And not only that, he was a fucking awesome captain in that movie.
Yeah, he was. Well, it's because you can talk so well. Everything you say, you hang on every word. But he's hold on. He's in the video game Starfleet Commander.
Oh, it's his voice?
It's his voice that goes through the tutorial. And some of the other parts, yeah.
He at the very beginning of that, Praxis explodes, and there's an explosion so massive it carries from Klingon territory into Federation space. And once it hits, he's able to drag himself up onto his chair and scream at them to turn into the wake of the ship or into the explosion, so they don't get destroyed.
Right.
All right. That's kick-ass. You never see Kirk doing that.
Well, that's because it took him 10 minutes to hit the ground in the first place. By the time they got the ship ready, he finally hit the floor.
Yeah. And then, the part when they're coming back and they're trying to get there before Kirk's ship gets destroyed by that cloaked ship.
And who else is on that ship? What face do you recognize on that ship?
Oh, you're talking about Christopher Plummer? The Klingon?
No.
Oh, you're talking about on Sulu's ship. Doesn't he have the guy that played Tuvok later on?
Yes, he does. That guy, he took so long to get into Star Trek, and he finally got that role. And that guy's a really good actor, because if you've seen him when he wasn't acting, he's just this flamboyant, goofy fucking guy, and I loved it. I'm like, why didn't we see that?
I think that there's actually that's the word that's being thrown around so much right now, problematic, that they basically would make friends with people, then bring them on for more stuff with Star Trek. It is a business, and I think that the reason we like Next Generation is because they were cast. Period. This was not. No one was, friends with people behind the scenes. Had no consideration involved. They cast them for the part, and they struggled to get the right people. By the time you get to Voyager, they knew a lot of the people who were cast or in the running to be cast. Even
except for the captain.
The person they first hired was that German lady, and they had to reshoot all her stuff for the first episode because she couldn't handle the work stress.
No, they didn't. She wasn't the first. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, that the captain was the last role to fill, and they just couldn't find anyone to fit it right. And so it was just left between her and the person who ended up playing her, and they're like she's too old. The way she reads it isn't quite right, so we'll go with the younger one. So that kind of made sense with the plot and everything, because she's a young captain. She makes some mistakes, right? I think this is her first assignment as captain, so it makes sense that she's a lot younger.
Yeah, she's still on the rag, so every so often she loses her temper.
I did not like that casting choice, but I don't think they had anyone else that could play, because to play Star Trek takes something special, I think.
Yeah. Well,
and
every series is going to be a little different. I really did not like Voyager. I really did not like it. Enterprise, the last couple of seasons I thought was doing okay, but by then they had no audience.
Oh, since we're talking about ultra nerd stuff here.
Yeah.
Okay, the guy who plays Tom Paris.
Yes.
What's his first gig?
His first. Well, I know he was on a previous episode of Next Generation. No.
His first, the actor's first acting gig ever.
I don't know.
Masters of the Universe.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Someone had a video about that once. You're right.
I was watching Masters of the Universe because I was like, there was a He-Man movie. I remember seeing bits and pieces of it. I don't know if I ever saw the whole thing, so I looked it up and I watched the whole thing like last year, the year before or so. And I'm watching it, and he's like, I just can remember tunes by replaying them. And he hits the universe key that's basically a music box, and I'm like, oh shit, that's Tom Paris. I'm like, holy cow.
And his girlfriend was, what's her name from Friends, right?
That I didn't know.
She's the one who had Cougar Town.
I never watched that.
Yeah, neither did I.
She's the one who played
Courtney Cox, right? Courtney Cox, is that her name?
Okay, that sounds about right. Yeah. Huh? I did not know that was Courtney Cox. I love that. I love that one scene though in Masters of the Universe. He's like, this food is great. She goes, isn't that animal flesh? He goes, yeah.
Oh, that's what's her name? Was her name Tila?
I don't remember.
Man at Arms and Tila, right? It's his daughter, I think. Yeah, he's eating it. He gets them the food from it's KFC promo, but they get it from a bucket of KFC, and they're eating it. And she goes, "Why is it on these white little sticks? It's so weird." And he goes, "Oh, those are bones." It's
right.
Like,
it's like, that's disgusting. How can you eat that? It's pretty good. And Howard the Duck, man, Howard the Duck. I thought Howard the Duck was the shit when I was a kid. Now I can't find it anywhere except for on the end of Guardian of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't indicate they're planning on bringing it back. I hope it was just for fun.
Oh no, I'd love for them to bring it back if they did it right. Okay.
Well, now they at least have CGI. But
I don't know. I thought his character, the way he worked. I mean, it worked. It's 80s, man.
Okay, well, what was that? There's another TV series, a sci-fi. A guy gets lost in space. He's an astronaut, and this was, from like the early 2000s.
Lex?
I think when they had it. No, it's not Lex.
Farscape. Yeah, Farscape.
Yeah, it's Farscape.
Yeah.
Okay, so
hold on. The guy from Farscape ended up being on Stargate: The Next Generation, and so did the woman. Or Stargate SG-1, I mean.
They're all becoming one show to us the more we talk about it.
I know.
When we're done, it'll just be star, 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 star.
That should be a real TV show. We'll start like a little cartoon YouTube thing.
We got a sci-fi parody on one of the specialty channels. Star, 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 star.
Go ahead, you were saying?
Okay, so I started watching this, and there's a couple of things that made it really tough to watch. And okay, so one of them is they had a puppet for the thing that flies the ship, and another puppet on there that was like some kind of a scam artist or salesman or something. And it's really hard to watch because it's a fucking puppet. All right, now but we're spoiled by CGI. At the time, probably in their budget, they wouldn't be able to do a CGI, and if they did, it probably would have looked like shit. And then the other thing is the one guy's nose, the big guy, the thing.
Yeah, I know he's got the.
I can't stop staring at it though. I just can't. I can't stop staring at it. I hate that thing. I want to pick it off his nose, but not pick his nose. Pick it off his nose.
Yeah, I feel the same way every time I see a girl with like the stupid little nose ring. I'm like, you got a booger right here. You want to take that like silver bull, booger. It's like, no, it's a ring. I'm like, why would you do that? That looks hideous. That's like the like you're intentionally making yourself look less attractive by putting on jewelry in like the wrongest place ever. It's like that does not look. It's like I should pick it off there. It's like,
what do you think?
That just bugs me.
Do you think it would have changed the rating on Lord of the Rings, the movie, if Sauron had put the one ring on his cock, and then the human had to cut it off of there in battle?
You mean the third movie?
Well, we're in the beginning of the first one. Remember they're in battle and that human cuts his fingers
okay,
off?
yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
What we were spoiled again by D&D and all this stuff. Now we all should be able to watch that scene and go, what good is your ring if it can't even keep your fingers on your body? Like,
it's supposed to make you invisible.
Exactly was it?
You can't lead an army and direct them while you're invisible. So in that case, it's like, all right, you men march over there. Where? It's like in Transylvania 2. He goes, and he has red hair. He goes, I have red hair. Well, how am I supposed to know? He's talking to the Invisible Man.
Yeah, my kid hasn't seen the second one yet. She loved the first one.
I did too. I thought it was great for a kids' film. I really did. Yeah. There's parts of it. It's like it's Adam Sandler. Like the part of Adam Sandler I don't want to see. Like he was great in Big Daddy. I love Big Daddy. I don't think there's any scene in Big Daddy that I didn't like or that I thought was too unbelievable. Things that I just can't, suspend disbelief for.
But we didn't like Zoran or Zonar.
I love that. The whole point of that was to be a stupid B movie. Like the whole thing was supposed to be over the top ridiculous.
Well, I do love the scene. I think it's in that movie where Henry Winkler gets in the car. He's like, I need to get to such and such a place quick. And then he gets there through traffic so fast and slides. Henry Winkler gets out of the car and pukes on the feet of the people that are waiting for him. Well, man, he said quick. He got you there quick.
Yeah. He does a lot with Henry Winkler. But if I die, I'll just go to heaven. He goes, I need to do something evil before I die. Quick, cover Henry Winkler in bees. And Henry Winkler's like, all right, whatever. I'm already, trashed to hell. And he's like, he covers him with bees, and then they hit him with a rock.
Okay, the other thing I want to ask you before we turn off for the night. They're saying there's going to be a new Star Trek TV series. They haven't said any of the details, but the production's going forward. They've made the announcement on like Paramount's official site or whatever.
I'm familiar with that.
What are you, just in a general sense, what are the things that you would hope for or really hope to not get out of a new series?
I have no hope at this point.
We've been broken.
It's good. Whatever it is, I have to believe it's just going to be utter crap. It's going to be useless, total crap.
I am not sure, because one of the producers from J.J. Abrams' second Star Trek movie is going to be heading up the whole project, and that makes me worried. But it's possible that he's not evil or stupid, or at least that he'll be good at bringing around him a good set of people that know how to make the show well. That's what Roddenberry really did well. Is he had good people that worked with him for the actual show. I'm actually hoping that they'll ignore the movies because they are fucked. So just ignore those. And I'm hoping that what they do is they bring in, like the Next Generation did, a new level of technology, and they upgrade everything. And just say that it's 50 years down the road.
If you asked me this question in 2008, what should they do with Star Trek for a new series? I would say put it 100 years in the future of the Next Generation. Fuck Voyager, fuck Deep Space Nine. 100 years in front of Star Trek The Next Generation. And let's see what kind of universe they've created with still maintaining, because apparently the Federation is still in existence for several more decades. So 100 years in the future from that, because that's what they did originally. They went about 100 years from the original series.
Yeah.
Right? So that the technology was realistic. And like even Geordi, the character Geordi, was so fascinated by, like, do you understand what this means? Our warp drives are going to be completely useless. We're just going to ride on these streams so much faster than our warp drives can carry us. And we're just going to, like, these rivers of warp streams. And this will revolutionize everything. And he got excited about these new concepts that were, that were advanced. Like, you're talking about an advanced civilization, and even that high-tech guys fascinated about the new thing they're about to just create. And I thought that was fantastic. And I think if they implement some of the essence from the books, like I loved the book Metamorphosis, right? That's where Data actually becomes human.
Oh, how does that happen?
You got to read the book. I'm not spoiling it. I'm not ruining it. You got no spoilers, man. No spoilers.
Brent Spiner finally crosses over from our dimension and merges with the android version of himself.
Well, if you read the book Q Squared, he already did that in a couple of the multi-dimensions. There's actually one dimension now where there's two Datas, one human, one not.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so if they do it right, if they take the essence from the actual books of scientific discovery, human discovery, pushing, like the last scene in the last episode of The Next Generation puts it perfectly. You're always on trial. Recognizing the possibility of the paradox is you exploring the universe, not just charting new planets.
Yeah.
So that's the mission.
With the technology, one of the difficulties is that even to me, I am not a scientist, but even to me, as someone who's interested in technology, clearly by the time we're talking about the future, they won't need to touch computers. Touching things with your hands will be totally counterproductive. It'll all be interfacing with your thoughts, right? Now, I'm not saying that they should make them all cyborgs, but this is a dilemma for anyone writing for Star Trek. Are they going to ignore this fact and continue to have people touching things? Or are they going to how do you make drama out of a situation where people just think? Like,
first of all, if you look at Star Trek and the history of the technology in those shows and how much of it has become real life, the technology we think is going in the direction doesn't usually become the direction, right? For example, if you look about what they thought we'd have in the 80s, like the flying cars, we don't have flying cars.
Oh, but we could have. They were able to do it. They had a number like the hovercraft. They had the hovercraft system. They could have done it. They actually, GM had mass production plans for 1997 already in the late 80s. But the problem is insurance and regulation. Like,
I'd like to see this. Dude, we have problems with people driving on a 2-dimensional road. Okay, we got to put up signs, don't text while driving.
That was exactly why they never went beyond the planning stage, was because how would you regulate this? And an accident would be not just running into someone's bumper, but flying into the second level of their house.
Or you'd crash into them and they'd slam right down to like 200 feet to the ground.
Yeah,
and crushing the person underneath them. So that's not going to happen. But what might happen is tubes, like in Futurama. We get little canisters, and boom, there we are.
But the Jetsons had that too, didn't they?
I don't think they had it to the extent Futurama did. For Futurama, it was the public transportation. They had escalators and elevators for chutes for people within one building, not for mass transit.
Well, with what you're bringing up along the lines of what I was saying about it makes it difficult for a story. So, okay, already with energy matter transporters, why would you run around the ship in elevators? Just transport everywhere. Like,
not elevators, but Wonkavaders.
Wonkavaders, yeah. But if you transport people everywhere around the ship, your efficiency would go way up, right? And
well, first of all, the cost, technical problems. You've lost several people just transporting them. I mean, dude, you could, it's like Spaceballs, dude. It's like Spaceballs. Remember when they tried to beam President Scrooge?
Yeah, but
my ass is on backwards.
I'm just saying when they had problems with the transporter, it was usually because they had a dramatic reason in the storyline for it. And I'm saying that's the same reason that they won't go that way for the storyline, is because in the future, how do you write for every time? Okay, it's already bad enough. Every time you watch Next Generation, Voyager, any of these series, they have to do all this technical babble whenever they can't beam someone off a ship for dramatic reasons. Oh, there's something in the ionosphere.
Yeah, they're blocking the beam. Yeah, or we can't beam that far. Like in the original series, they're like, get him back. He says, we can't. These 200 miles beneath the surface. We have no idea how to beam someone that far away. We don't have the power. We don't have the technique. Our equipment is not delicate enough to be able to do that. But theirs was. Right?
This is actually what I refer to as the Superman dilemma, is that they have to fluctuate Superman's strength. The same with the Incredible Hulk. They have to fluctuate his strength depending on the storyline, because it's just so massive that sometimes it's too much.
Yeah. Well, they actually, you should see the verses, like Superman versus Goku on YouTube. They've done really well. Okay, you did.
Yeah, that was
so
great.
They actually calculate that, and they go throughout all the books and see exactly what the massive. The biggest problem with that's ever happened is X-Men, the cartoon, back in, I guess, the 80s it would be, because every time they fought a villain, right, like the new villain was so much stronger, and then that villain would join them and be on their side, and they'd fight another villain that had the exact same. He's like, I'm a muscle man, I pound the ground, and there's an earthquake now, and it's like somehow this guy is stronger, but then they have the same amount of strength once they cross over to the X-Men side. They did the exact same thing on Dragon Ball Z, right? Because every time they defeat that, like they defeated the guy with the fucking hair, whatever, who's died like several times, right? They defeated him because he was real strong. Then they defeated the androids, and the androids weren't as strong once they were on Goku's side. And it's like, dude, get this, like, this is crap writing. Like, stop it. Have some kind of measurement of how strong a character is. I get that as they grow, that they can get stronger, right? But still, there's going to be this strength gap. One character is stronger than another. If you watch the Awesomes, right, you have Muscle Man, right, who's not as strong as the sumo guy, right? And they keep that consistent. But the sumo guy is also a 6-year-old kid. Or 12-year-old or something like that. So, when he shrinks back down, he no longer has his strength.
It's a work of art, right? That's what writing is, and every kind of depiction is. So there's gonna be some level of inconsistency because we're human. But when it comes to someone like Superman, like someone that powerful, then you can really start noticing it if you look for it. Like the fact that If he walks into a room and Lex Luthor's got like a gun to someone's head and some other bad guys, and then Superman will be like, "Don't do it. I'll do whatever you say." Like, why are you even talking? With your speed, you clearly can take the gun out of everyone's hand and arrest them all, and not even a moment will have gone by. They couldn't possibly pull the trigger. Right?
Yeah, because
you know what happens is
because there was a race between the Flash and Superman, and I think it ended in a tie. So if the Flash can run around and stop people, I don't see why Superman can't. But also, I've got a gun to this person's head. Dude, use your eye beams to melt the fucking gun. Weapon disabled.
There's so many ways he could handle it. If nothing else, he could go back in time and stop their heads from being popped, right?
But he can't have sex with Lois Lane.
But for dramatic reasons, clearly, you just can't do that sometimes. It just doesn't work because an audience is going to be like, okay, so he's basically God now, and I'm going to go watch a daytime soap opera or something.
I want to see a fight between Superman and Hancock.
Hancock, I like that movie. I like that movie. I thought it was pretty creative.
Yeah, I thought it was too. So I figured the best way that Hancock will win is he'll get a girl to get on top of him for a few seconds. Okay, get off! And fire at Superman. Superman's like, no, I quit. You win. I'm out.
Just get Batman. He's always got some kind of kryptonite thing going on.
Oh, man, no, don't get Batman. He's the worst. He's the worst. He's not even a hero.
Dude, I make fun. You're committing a crime according to some people just saying that. I like Batman stuff every now and then. Like, I'm not the biggest fan, but some of his stuff I like. Like Dark Knight, I was a huge fan of that movie. But the fact that the fans are the people I make fun of. They're so delusional about this character. They're just completely delusional. He can beat Superman. He can take down the whole Justice League. It's like, get out here with this shit.
Dude, Batman keeps an underage boy in tights in his basement. He's the fucking criminal, okay?
Yeah. Well, even if he didn't do that,
he's a rich old guy who keeps an underage boy in tights in his basement.
Here's a party game. I used to go to parties and when I was in university, and when I got a little bored or whatever, and people were just kind of sitting around, I'd be like, okay, so question is, you're Superman, you're Batman, or you're Spider-Man. You select one of them, tell me who, and tell me why. So which one would you say?
I would say Superman because I could fly around the world and rewind time and then save Batman's parents so that he never becomes Batman.
So the interesting thing to me about these choices is that Superman is the ideal that's unachievable, but it's the goal that's never met, right? To become better than you are. Batman is kind of a resolution of giving up. He's just getting revenge. He does whatever he wants. He's a crazy rich guy. He's psychotic. But he should be completely unrelatable. But guess who is the most often picked by far? Batman. And when people, when I tell people this is my analysis, first thing they say is, but he's the only one without power, so he should be the most relatable. Like, he's a multi-billionaire from a wealthy family. He's completely psychotic and bent on revenge. His whole life is about vengeance.
Yeah, but he won't kill people to the point where he actually gets himself in danger.
Despite the powers, Superman is more relatable because he's a good person and you want to strive to be like him. And Spider-Man should be the most relatable, and most people never pick him, despite the fact that he's a working class Joe, right? He's kind of just a grounded dude. So I always found it kind of interesting. The Batman people who choose Batman get so mad.
Well, you're also asking them to pick the superhero, which is based on their superpowers. Superman has everything. He has the laser eye vision. He has the X-ray. First of all, every teenage boy who doesn't pick Superman is gay. Okay, because if you've got that X-ray vision, I'm sorry. Superman as a teenager, all his female classmates, they're fucking cancer. They got cancer. They got all of it.
But Karn, ironically, Superman would never approve of you saying it that way. It'd be just intolerant.
No, I don't care. He's a 13-year-old boy. He's a 12-year-old boy. I don't care what his ethics are. This is wrong, but I'm looking. Like he won't be able to. It's like this is wrong. He'll be like this all day long. They'll say you can't cover your face. Shit! I look again.
It's kind of like if we could live for 10,000, 100,000 years without dying, and we could just evolve as a species, that the Superman is kind of like our current best idea of what we would become. We would just like absorb sunlight, and we would try always do the right thing. We'd never be selfish. We were indestructible. We had no real needs. You know, it's that perfect thing that we aim for. That
real needs. He had his fortress of solitude, and he really needed that fortress. He had to get away every once in a while, and that was because the stress of the job just fucking took on it, you know. But again, you know, Superman as a teenager, every hour or so, like he'd have to go through 3 pairs of pants a day. He'd have to, right? Because that X-ray vision would kick in. And then, you know, even on the random erections you get as a teenager in high school, man, it would go right through the pants. He'd be like, God damn it. He'd need like titanium pants in high school, and even that might not
work. With Batman, though, I actually I've used Photoshop just to make pictures.
By the way, sorry, like, again, Batman keeps an underage boy in tights in his basement, and he drives around in a phallic car. Okay. He's Herbert.
But again, I don't make fun of Batman per se. He's a fictional character. My mocking is of his fans' blind devotion to this guy.
Yeah, that's even worse.
So, for instance, I have a Batman versus hashtag I make pictures for every so often. My favorite one so far is a picture of Batman from the side, and he's like this, and he's holding a fetus in his fist. Batman versus abortion. And then no matter who it versus, no matter what bizarre thing he's fighting in this thing, it's always something nonsensical. At the bottom it always says, Batman, because he'd outsmart it. It's always what they say. It's always what they say. He can beat Superman. Why? Wow, because he'd outsmart it. He'd outsmart him.
First of all, he had months upon months, even in that story, in order to take down Superman.
Well, the only generous thing that I can say is that some people have pointed out that Superman is probably always holding back in a fight. But still, like, Superman could shatter the planet. He wins.
He just fly right through it.
He wins. That's it. He can turn back time. He wins. He wins. He wins. Let's go through the checklist. He wins. He wins. He wins. He wins. He wins. He wins. He wins.
I loved it. I saw this this cartoon on YouTube. Like Superman and Batman, right? And Batman's like, okay, I found some clues, and I'm going to scale this building with my hooks, right? And he's climbing, and Superman flies up. He says, yeah, I already found them with my X-ray vision. I didn't need any of the clues. I went straight here, and I've already got her off the thing. And he's like, fuck, and he's got to climb all the way back down. It takes Batman forever.
Yes.
Superman just flies.
Right?
X-ray vision flies right to it.
Isn't that the one where later on? Isn't that the one where later on Superman's like, so I went ahead and stopped all crime in Gotham.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, this is the thing. Okay, so Marvel, this is the thing. Marvel has got the Avengers and whatnot that they're doing. The best thing about Marvel Comics, I know some people don't know the difference between the two, but the best thing about Marvel Comics I like is their sense of unified theory within their universes. Right, so the idea of mutants, you know, they evolve a certain way. They have these cosmic beings. This storylines that kind of flow through the whole universe, and then everything else happens in between. The thing I liked about DC best is that when they don't connect, is when they connect all their shit, they try and force it all together. That makes no goddamn sense. Like, Superman should be the Justice League. You shouldn't need anyone else. So already you've got a problem here. He literally could do all of their work and better than the rest of them. Them showing up only makes things worse.
Again, this is why I love the Awesomes, because they totally rip on this.
But Superman in his own universe, in Metropolis, where there's not a whole bunch of superheroes around the world, just the ones he's got to fight, there's a lot of area for storyline there. Same with Batman. But once you put them next to each other, it's like a joke.
Yeah. They're like, one of the fans of Batman said, well, he can have this kryptonite gun and shoot it at Batman. I said, dude, Batman's faster than a speeding bullet. What's shooting that at him? It still has to reach him first. Like, he can just blast it with his fucking laser eyes. He can see it coming. Zap. What else you got, Batman? I have this boomerang.
I could do the Batootsie.
And then all you do is you just see he doesn't even sidestep it. Superman just goes bloop, real quick. Don't even see him. It goes like right through him, kind of like Image kind of thing. And it's like, shit. I got my car. Yeah, I can run faster than your car.
Okay. Faster than a speeding bullet. Did you listen to the show when it started, Batman? I'm faster than a speeding bullet.
And where is Superman? Where was Superman born?
On Krypton?
No, Cleveland. Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, I mean, real life. Yeah, actually, one of the guys.
A Jewish boy wrote the story of Superman on wallpaper. They ripped off their wall, and because it was the only thing they had to draw on. Two really poor boys in Cleveland, and it was one of their fathers who got shot in the street. So the first superpower Superman had was bulletproof.
Actually, before they made Superman as we know it, they actually did a one-off where Superman was an evil mastermind, basically Lex Luthor. And then they decided that they didn't like that, and then Superman became the hero instead.
Well, Superman started out for the heroes when the boys were first drawing it on the wallpaper. And then they sold it for like $120 something, $129, I think, to
the first thing that
DC Comics, and then
that's what I mean. They had a one-off. The first thing they published under the term Superman was they got something in a paper. It was called something about like the attack of the Superman or the revenge of the Superman, and it was about this guy who was just like super intelligent. Because the term, if you remember, the term was actually used in philosophy, I think by Nietzsche, talking about people who rise out of history and stand out from all of their peers. Like Jesus and Napoleon were a couple that he included. And that's so when they first thought Superman, they weren't thinking of physical strength. But once they right away decided that they didn't like that. Once they put together the idea of a physical Superman, that's when everything started falling in place. And they essentially, I'm sure you know this, they basically invented superheroes.
Yeah.
And can we say they certainly did not get the money they deserve for such a feat?
I think you're wrong about that. I think you've got to realize the time that it came out, and it was around World War II, right, where the Superman was derived. The Superman becomes the super soldier, and this was out of the whole Nazi era kind of thing. So we were looking for our Superman, they were looking for their Superman, and you know. Here's something, and I love this story. This is the greatest story ever. Something Batman can't do, and it doesn't require superpowers. Superpowers are irrelevant here, right? Something Batman can't do is he can't take down a real-life KKK. And that's what Superman did. The fictional character Superman actually took out the real-life KKK. And here's how. This guy, he has a family in the South. Most of them are members of the KKK. He moves to the North where he starts a radio show. Superman. He later then joins the KKK. He puts in stories of the KKK, their handshakes, their secret knocks, everything, and he implements that into his show. So when the members of the KKK walk outside on Saturday morning, little kids, their own children, already know all the secret handshakes, all the secrets of the KKK, and it totally took them down because everything was being revealed to them. Total transparency, and that's something you can't have in the KKK. That's why they wore the fucking sheets in the first place. So he actually took them out. And I'll send you links so you can put them in the down below when this goes onto the
well,
YouTube.
I would almost say that's super.
It's a super story. So yeah, man, this was during, before TV and stuff. This was the 1930s, 40s, I think, if I remember the time frame.
It's weird that the Superman, people that played Superman for so long, had such bad fortune happen to them. The one guy was like shot. That played on the TV show. Do you remember that?
No. That's interesting, though, considering the original inspiration for Superman was shot and killed.
Yeah. And then there was somebody else that had something bad happen to them. And then Christopher Reeve, when he had that accident on the horse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad that I'm glad it's not a real superstition that has followed all of the actors. We've had some now that have been okay.
Yeah, like the one from the 90s.
Dean Cain?
Yeah, Dean Cain, thank you. I'm horrible with names. Absolutely horrid.
I actually had one small interaction with him on Twitter not too long ago.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. But he's pro Gamergate. He's not like an activist or anything, but so
that's interesting. He's on he was on an episode of Comic Book Ben. Yeah. He actually serves cake at his own party, right? His own Superman party. He serves cake to everybody. I thought that was funny.
I didn't like the show, but it wasn't his fault. It was just
it was cheap writing, cheap special effects. It was it was like on a real budget.
It's like turning Superman into a sitcom or something. I wasn't sure what was going on there. Just like Smallville. I have friends who love Smallville. I have never gotten into it. I don't like. There's some characters like Superman. They're just too big for a TV show. Like he's Superman, for God's sakes. How do you have the budget for a TV show to do that right? And how mundane must all the episodes along the way be? It just, if you want to make a TV show.
Even the Avengers, right, went cartoonish when they came up with the idea for the show, because it's like, there's no way you can make this much money, like off a TV show. There's not enough. They try it with Shield and Agent of Shield, right?
Yeah. You know what? That's an interesting show. I actually enjoyed it before the superpowers were introduced into the show more than after. That is very weird.
You mean all the Inhumans? Well, they started off. Like the second or third episode was they dealt with an Inhuman who was able to produce fire, right, from his his hands. Yeah. And they found out like his platelets like protected his body as he produced this flame. So there was some kind of scientific thing about it. And they're like, it's funny because I was rooting for Shield to be taken down. I wanted them to be taken down.
Hey, you got it. Nice.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you fuckers deserved it. You treat I'm like okay, because the guy, spoiler alert, a hacker hacks into Shield, right? And then he gives the information of the location to what's essentially Hydra, but they don't know it's Hydra at the time. And then they capture him. They capture the Flame guy, and they study him. They give him a name. But prior to that, he's on the street, and S.H.I.E.L.D. says, you can't do anything spectacular. You're not allowed to show off your power in any way, shape, or form. You're basically on house arrest. They took a performer and forced him to live a mediocre life. This guy was someone special, and they kept someone special in a very small, contained box. And this guy fucking lost it. And at the end of the episode, he goes, this is what happens when you don't get to them soon enough. No, motherfucker, this is what happens when you lock and cage up people who are completely innocent. You're locking him up for being different, and then you didn't expect him to lose his shit and attack you? At least the other guys were more transparent. He knew these guys are fucking evil. He knows that they're bad, right? But he's after you because you claim to be the fucking righteous.
Well, and this is all leading up to the Civil War, right? I don't know if you're familiar with that in the comic books.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a catalyst or anything, but it was foreshadowing that this was a problem.
It's kind of just like the way things are flowing. It's all going in that way.
So why not make this guy an Avenger, but you're going to make other people Avengers? Like, if they're Inhumans, why not just take in all the Inhumans and said, okay, this is our organization. We're going to call on you. We're going to give you money. We're going to give you resources. But when we call you to save the world, you're going to come and save the world. we'll look away every once in a while if you do something a little shady. Don't go. Here's some lines. Do not cross them. If you do, we're throwing you in prison. And leave it like that. But the way they were is like, you have two choices. You're either on house arrest, or we're going to put you in a box 30 miles below, where no one's ever going to find you. You're never going to see the light of day ever again. Oh, by the way, there's no judge, there's no jury, you have no rights. Motherfucker, I'm in America, and you come into my home, tell me I have no rights because you're S.H.I.E.L.D.? Yeah, I didn't like them from Thor when they took that scientist material, because now all her work is useless. Everything she's done is useless because they could have manipulated it in any way, shape, or form, and she has nothing to double check it against.
This is why the Civil War comic book part, like the series they made, was so compelling, and so many people got involved in reading it, is because did you read through it all by any chance?
I never got to read any of the comics.
Okay, so this is only from a few years back. It's not like ancient history or anything, right. And it's gonna be the next Captain America movie. Actually, Iron Man leads up one side, which is for government regulation and imprisonment of anyone who doesn't work for the government.
Right.
You have to register who you are and publicly do what the government says, or you go to prison. And they have like this weird prison they make, which is basically like a phantom zone. So anyways, Captain America goes underground and leads a rebellion of superheroes against it. And by the end of the series, it turns into a huge battle in the middle of Manhattan.
Between all the superheroes. The ones who are good are on that, and the others who aren't. Yeah, this is basically law versus chaos.
But along the way,
law good versus chaos good.
Yeah. So and along the way, it's interesting because they're making you ask questions about what you feel about safety versus freedom, right?
Yeah,
which is very relevant. Yeah. But anyways, Thor basically was out of the picture during the first part of the series. He'd been gone doing other stuff. And so all of a sudden he shows up in this one battle, and Hercules, the character in the comic book, he's fighting on the side of Captain America. And he gets taken by surprise by this lightning coming down. Thor's suddenly there, and he starts fighting for Iron Man's side, the government. And then eventually what happens is you find out that it gets destroyed. It was a robot. It was an engineered machine of some kind from Thor's DNA from a hair sample that they had. So in one of the fights that's going on, suddenly another lightning bolt comes down.
Did you just give me the entire movie of the next fucking...
No. Probably. Well, maybe they're gonna rearrange all of this stuff. It'll never fit into a movie the way that the comic book was done. So, but I'm just telling you, like, Thor is one of my favorites because of his attitude, and I have a Viking background.
Right.
He's got a hammer, right? How can you love any superhero more? Like, if Superman had a hammer, wouldn't he be better with a hammer? Hammers make everything better. Anyways, so he suddenly appears, destroys the machine, and then he looks at Tony Stark and he goes, "How dare you create an abomination from my body?" And he beats the living shit out of him on the battlefield. It was like, that was fucking awesome.
He actually, wow. Yeah. Okay, so Thor actually beats the shit out of Iron Man. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
And he has it coming too, man. When I was reading through the comic book, I hated Iron Man through the whole thing. I was waiting for him to get killed. And so eventually, anyways, Captain America calls off the fighting and he surrenders himself in order to stop innocent people from dying from the devastation they're causing in this fight.
Captain America.
And he ends up being assassinated, essentially in custody. And so then there's like the aftermath and all this stuff about all kinds of other stuff going crazy because comic books never end. But it was a very interesting series. So I think they are probably going to do that. They probably are going to kill Captain America in the next movie.
Well, he said he's not going to do it anymore.
The actor?
Yeah. He says after the next one, he's done.
Isn't he awesome, though? That guy, I saw him years ago in a stupid little parody movie. Well, I enjoyed the movie, but it was a little tiny movie called Not Another Teen Movie back in the 90s. And he just was this teenager.
Saw that movie.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I watched
him? Holy shit. I never...
Yeah.
Wow.
And then he's all of a sudden I saw him do a couple little roles here and there, and all of a sudden he's in the Fantastic Four, and I was like, fuck, he's fucking
Fantastic
awesome in this
Four
role.
sucked so
But his character in the first one, Johnny Storm, was so hilarious because he was such an arrogant shit. He was the highlight of the movie for me.
I hated it. Like I thought his was like the worst because it's like
I love it when he goes
overplayed, man.
But
I thought the acting was bad.
That's
the characters were bad. Everything was so bad.
Don't you understand?
But he did make a great Captain America.
That's why I liked him in it, is because I thought the movie sucked, but his character shone through because it was over the top. He's the only one that seemed to know the movie was over dramatic and melodramatic. I love there's a scene when he comes up.
Did you see the latest one?
No, I haven't even watched it.
It's not good either. It's like
people have just told me not even to waste my time. It's every single person I know that watched it. Every single one hated the movie.
I didn't waste my time watching that movie. I was wasting my time anyway, so I watched that movie.
There's a great scene where he comes up. Chris Evans is his name. In that movie, he goes up to some woman and goes, "Hey, watch this," and he lights his hand on fire. And he goes, "Now imagine that everywhere." That's like, he is such a hound, man.
And in the Winter Soldier, a friend of mine is in that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude, it was filmed here.
Where in Ohio?
Yeah, Cleveland.
No, I see. I had no idea where it was filmed.
Yeah, it's funny because the props loved him. The props people loved him because he's a real live nurse, right? Yeah. And he's listed as Doctor Number 3. And he shows up with his own stethoscope because he's a nurse, and they're like, "Oh shit, we don't need to do anything with you. You're done. Go over there." They're waiting for you, and yeah. So he was he was one of the doctors in that room where supposedly what's his name died.
Oh, yeah, big guy, Nick Fury.
Yeah, thank you, Fury. Where Fury supposedly died, and they're manically trying to save him and whatever. So yeah, he's one of the doctors, scurrying around there.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. Yeah. I have a friend. He's an actor in Vancouver. So he's been in episodes with smaller parts in episodes of Once Upon a Time. What are these other ones? He was in an episode of Supernatural as a werewolf.
I can't stand that show.
I have watched through all the seasons and I got into it in a way. There's stuff I love about it, but I think the part where I've always been unhappy about it is that they started with a cast of 2 main characters, and I'm like, it's the same thing with Doctor Who. They basically have a one main character. You need a few characters, man. You need a few.
Look, the problem with all these shows, like whether you're talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayers, the 3 witch girls, whatever that TV show was on WB, whether you're talking about Supernatural, the problem is eventually they're going to go through every single demon that's ever been written down since the last 5,000 years, and they're going to run out of fucking material, and none of it's original, and there's never any substance to any of the characters really. You get maybe about a moment or two of good acting maybe, and of some solid character play, but that's about it, because about 5 minutes later they have to readjust the character to fit the stupid plot of the teeny boppers who are watching it.
But I think that there's something to be said. I think if it's a good TV show with a good run and they stop it, I think that there is a good thing to be said about making decent movies afterwards, because there are certain things about a movie you can do you can't do with the TV show. So there's new areas to explore. Like with Star Trek's a perfect example. When you watch the show, you like the show, but for the movies that we consider good movies, there's an environment there that's just much more rich, a much wider scope that they can do things with that they couldn't do with the TV show. So it allows them to explore some more things with the characters before they're done.
Yeah, they blew up the Enterprise.
Rick Berman is
I love that scene, though. That was a perfect scene. That was the right thing to happen. Those torpedoes, even though they were old, right? Like it's an older model ship or whatever, those torpedoes, they went through the shields. They got hit with a bunch of them. They only needed one torpedo while they were cloaked to blow up the whole ship, right? And they got that off just in time. Ow.
All they had to do was blow up that little dinky ship, though.
Yeah, but they couldn't hit it because they were being bombarded. Everybody's thrown all over the place. Finally, someone reaches over and fucking hits it. And I love that song. I just love looking for life forms. Itty bitty life forms. Where are you? Do-do-do-do-do. Everybody's just looking at Data like he's insane.
On my Mr. Dragonbeard channel, I did 2 little parody edits of Voyager. Just putting stuff together. I called it Voyager Season Drunk. And
that's great.
Just for my own amusement.
The title alone, you've won.
One of them ends, it's called the Janeway Special. It ends with her, because she, I don't know how, it must have been 12 times that she set the self-destruct on her show, right? It's just insane for a captain. This is reckless for a captain to keep setting the self-destruct. But anyways, I get so tired of it that I call it the Janeway Special. At the end, she just walks onto the bridge. She's like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? And then all of a sudden she sets the self-destruct. The whole ship blows up. And then at the very end, I dubbed in, you see 2 people floating. It's off another episode. They're floating in their spacesuits, Paris and Torres. And then you hear Data singing, the little life forms, do-do-do-do. And I slice in a picture of them on the bridge while he's doing his little life scans.
That is great. I've definitely got to watch that. Oh, that's fantastic.
All right, man. I gotta go, but this has been great. Thanks for helping me out, and I'm definitely gonna get you on one of our roundtable talks that I'm doing.
All right.
I'm gonna try my first one tomorrow. I've got some people set up. If they all show up, it'll be a full bunch. But hopefully the next one will be in 2 weeks. Do you want me on that one?
Sure.
If they don't show, which is entirely a possibility, I will also send you a message to see if you're available tomorrow. I'm going to plan on doing it at 6 o'clock, unless we do. Eventually, we're going to have to do a couple of weird times to get.
Are you in my time zone or no?
Ontario is Eastern time, so
yeah, okay.
Probably, yeah. Yep. All right, man. Have yourself a good night, and remember, live long and prosper.
Hell yeah. Kirk cannot do that.